Hey, I'm Chris, and this is MMA for You. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC Fight Night 95, Justino versus Lansberg, which happens on September 24th on FS1. But before I get into that, I'd like to plug my own author's website at www.chrismoldon.com. I am an author specializing in the fantasy genre, and you can buy some of my works, starting with my first novel, an action adventure called The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $4.99 on my website, on PDF format, or if you have an e-reader such as a Kindle, you can buy it for $4.99 on Amazon.com. Also, for just $1.99 on my website or on Amazon.com, you can buy some of my short stories and short story collections, starting with the fantasy horror short story, The Land of the Wooden Statues, which I'm trying to make into a novel. Uh, the horror collection, which is a compilation of three of my gothic horror short stories, and my fantasy fable collection, which is a compilation of four of my fantasy fable short stories. Links to all the to buy all this stuff or check all this stuff out will be provided on the description. Also, on the description is a link for my Twitter page, my author's page on Facebook, and my author's YouTube page, where I pretty much do like manga reviews, and I'll read some parts of my stories or like my short stories as well. So, on to this card. I actually like it. I think that there's actually some good action fights on here. Main event should end in a finish. Co-main's kind of weird. I don't really know if that's going to end in a finish or not. Nelson versus Bigfoot, I expect a finish. Trinaldo versus Felder could be fun. Santos versus Spicely could be fun, because I can see a finish. De La Torre versus Pepey, that could be fun. Some of these other ones, I mean, you have some grinders on here. It's like Prazeres. Yahya can be a grinder sometimes. Dustin Ortiz can be a grinder. So those ones, I mean, they're up against guys that are good themselves, but it's like grappler versus grappler matchups in the middle of the card. So that could be either really boring or really cool, and I don't really know what to expect. Got some good prospects. Luan Chagas is on this card. Glauco Franca is on this card. Gregor Gillespie is a top prospect. He's on this card. Stevie Ray, I'd still consider him a prospect. Um, Vicente Luque, he's actually a pretty decent prospect. Dustin Ortiz, he's getting slowly but surely out of prospect territory, but he's only 27. Michinori Tanaka, he's a good prospect. Gilbert Burns, 30 years old, but I still consider him a prospect. And yeah, and the main event, that's just a fun fight too. And let's just get started. Okay, in the main event, Cristiane Cyborg Justino fights Lina Elbow Princess Lansberg. Lansberg, 6-1 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by decision. 34 years old. She's 5'6", on a 6-fight win streak, and it's her first fight in the UFC. So I watched a couple videos of hers. I actually saw her fight Maria Hogard, which is her most previous fight, and another fight of hers. I like her stand-up. I think that she's actually going to be one of the better strikers that Justino will have faced up until this point. I like Lansberg's Muay Thai. She has really strong kicks. She'll kick to a lot of different spots of the body, the head, and whatnot. Her clinch game was really, from video I've seen, it is really strong. She does have strong elbows and strong knees. She's actually a pretty accurate puncher, too. She's not a bad puncher. But, it's all relative to the divisions that she's fighting in and the level of competition she's fighting in. Her one loss is to Penny Kianzad, who's a quality bantamweight. The problem with Lina, though, I just haven't seen her ground game. She did manage to get, I think she dropped Maria Hogard and then got some follow-up ground and pound, but I cannot speak for her ground game, really. Outside of that, her ground and pound looked good and whatnot, but she had her opponent hurt, so it's really tough to say. Cristiane Justino, 16-1 record with 1 no contest. 14 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by decision. 31 years old. She's 5'8" on a 6-fight win streak, and she is the Invicta FC Women's Featherweight Champion. So the thing with Justino is she's a swarmer, but she's actually become a better counterpuncher. So she swarms on the counter. She also just aggressively swarm, but I know she's getting better about hitting it, just hitting counters now. And she's overall just a strong kickboxer. It's really heavy-handed. Her technique's actually getting a lot better, whereas before she used to just go in and throw haymakers. Sometimes, I mean, you still see that, but you also see her throw like the occasional straight right hand and like pick her shots when need be. Her takedown defense looks good. She's also just so strong too. The only thing going against her is she might have a hard time. She constantly talks about how hard of a time she has cutting to 140, but otherwise, last time she fought 140, she did good. Beat up Leslie Smith. If there's any problem with in the stand up, which there shouldn't be, Justino has a very underrated takedown and ground and pound game. She has some strong clinch takedowns. And once her lion fights, her stuff on lion fights, when she's doing those Muay Thai fights, and she's hitting clinch takedowns like on everyone. And she used to train with Tito, and you can actually see like the semblance of like Tito. I mean, he's a caricature, but like he always had some pretty nasty ground and pound. And Justino also has some pretty nasty ground and pound. I still remember when she fought like Marlos Kunin the second time, and she would ragdoll her to the ground and pound her out a lot of times. With that said, I mean, like I said, Lansberg is actually a quality fighter. Um, she's just not going to be as strong. She's not going to be as big. And just because of that, I mean, you got to go Justino here by KO or TKO. I mean, it's just, Justino, she's a solid kickboxer herself. Um, really heavy-handed. And she's just so strong. And if for whatever reason the stand-up doesn't work for her, I mean, she always has clinch takedowns and ground and pound from top position in her back pocket if she really needs to use it, which she pretty much never does. So yeah, Cristiane Justino to win by KO or TKO. So after that, Renan the Baron Barao fights Phillipe Super Nover. Barao, 33-4 record with 1 no contest, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 15 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 29 years old, he's 5'7" on a 2-fight losing streak. Most recently losing to Jeremy Stevens, and he trains out of Nova União. He's only won 1 of his last 4 fights. That fight was against Mitch Gagnon. Got an arm triangle on him. He is a former UFC bantamweight champion. Barao at his best is a solid Muay Thai. He has some solid Muay Thai and some solid movement too. If you saw his first round against Jeremy Stevens was him running circles around Jeremy Stevens and just hitting him with clean shots, getting out of the way, and just using his speed. Eventually, though, Jeremy Stevens hit him hard, and it was all downhill for Barao from there. I mean, Barao, his kicks are good. He does have some really strong knees. He doesn't take a hit well. That's one of the biggest knocks against Barao. And it's not just like the Dillashaw fights either. Whenever he's taking solid hits, he just doesn't react to them well. He has some strong takedown defense though. Barao does. I want to say is it like 100% takedown defense or like some really crazy high percentage of takedown defense? Someone actually told it to me. I want to even say it's 100. That he's never been taken down yet. But I'm not 100% sure about that. And Barao is a legit BJJ black belt. His arm triangle is devastating, and he can take the back if need be. Phillipe Nover, 11-6 record with one draw, one win by KO, 5 wins by sub. 32 years old. He's 5'9". Trains out of Hendo Gracie's. You know, Nover's stand-up, I'd say, is just average. It's good, but not great. Defensively, he can use some work. Offensively, I mean, he's not the most heaviest-handed guy or anything like that. I mean, it's just average. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are solid, though, and his offensive takedown ability is not that bad. He did beat Yochu Nam, Korean Bulldozer, by just the first 2 rounds, just taking him down all day and grinding from the top. So, I mean, he is solid on the ground, and most of his most of his finishes, are by submission. And so are Barao's. And the fact of the matter is this. I think Barao is better everywhere than Nover. Maybe not maybe not the mental game, I guess, or confident. I just don't know where Barao's confidence is at this time. But if we're going looking at striking, wrestling, BJJ, I think Barao beats him in all aspects of the game there. With that said, I am gonna go with Renan Barao to win this one. I want to go by a finish. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get a sub, but you know what? I'll go Renan Barao to win this one by KO or TKO. I don't think Barao has fallen off that much that he's going to lose to Phillipe Nover, who, quite honestly, is just good enough to be in the UFC, but not good enough to get, he doesn't seem like he can really get much sustained success in the UFC too. I mean, he beat Yocho Nam. He barely beat him, And Barao, I mean, unless he's declined that much and just cannot pull the trigger or something, I mean, he should be able to beat up Nover on the feet. And if he wants to even take it to the ground, I think Barao can take it to the ground too. But, you know what? I'll go ahead and Barao by KO or TKO. So after that, Roy Big Country Nelson fights Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Silva, 19-9 record with one draw, 14 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 8 losses by KO or TKO. He's 36 years old, 6-4 on a 2-fight losing streak. He most recently got knocked out by Stefan Struve. He's a bit of a worrisome case because the fact of the matter is, it seems like any big hit that Silva takes wobbles and or drops the guy. Really hurts him. And he's been getting knocked out quite frequently. Mir, Arlovsky, Struve, I mean, they've all knocked this guy out. Silva does train at ATT, and he's only won 2 of his last 7 bouts. Silva is a BJJ black belt. He is a terror on top. Super heavy up there. His stand-up's actually not that bad offensively. I mean, he is heavy-handed. He's just kind of slow, and defensively he's just not very good. His wrestling actually isn't too bad. Offensively and defensively, more strength than technique. But his chin is just gone. I mean, it's just flat out gone. Roy Nelson, 21-13 record, 13 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. Has 2 losses by KO or TKO, 40 years old, he's 6 foot, and an Ultimate Fighter winner. He's only won 2 of his last 8 bouts. Most recently lost to Derek Lewis. Nelson is a BJJ black belt himself, and also a terror on top. Everyone knows about his strong right hand, and that's his money punch. It is a one-punch knockout. A lot of times, if he lands that right hand, he's got a really good chin too. When he fought Derek Lewis, he took this right hand from him at the end of the 3rd round. It would have knocked out most heavyweights. He takes a lot of damage, though. I mean, his stand-up defense is atrocious. I mean, he has next to no defense standing. Thankfully, he has a really good chin. His cardio is also not that great either. Despite all that, I have Roy Nelson winning this by KO or TKO. I mean, I can imagine that Silva might just come in there and not even want to strike, and just might want to grapple, and that might work on Roy Nelson. It is a possibility, but another possibility also is like Nelson's also grappling a lot more now. Derek Lewis against Derek Lewis, I mean, he was just going for takedowns all day. He was clinching up with Josh Barnett. So he might even employ his own takedown game as well. But, if Nelson just touches him with the right hand, I mean, it should be a knockout. So I'm going to go, Roy Nelson to win by KO or TKO. So after that, Paul, the Irish Dragon Felder, fights Francisco Massaranduba Trinaldo. Trinaldo, 20-4 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. Also has 2 losses by submission. 28 years old, he's 5'8", on a 6-fight win streak. Trains out of Evolution Thai. His stand-up's good. He has this style of stand-up where he's moving a lot and he kind of pot shots. He beat up Yancy Medeiros last time out, though. I mean, he is pretty heavy-handed. But he's been using this new style. Knocked out Chad LaPriest. Just beat Ross Pearson with this new style. He's just in, he's out, and it's working for him really well. And then his grappling's good too. He has good offensive takedowns, strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills, and good top control. I'm really liking what I see from Trinaldo. And he fights Paul Felder. He has a 12-2 record, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. 31 years old. He's 5'10", on a 2-fight win streak. Both these guys are big for the weight class. They're big, strong guys. Felder has some good stand-up himself. He has a good left hook, and he uses spinning strikes, and is particularly heavy-handed. He's also got a really good chin on him, too. His grappling is improving. His takedown defense is getting better, and his overall just grappling game is getting better too. I'll say this though: when I saw, I used to be really high on Paul Felder, but my thoughts of Felder really moving up the ladder, it's kind of waned a bit. He didn't look great against Josh Bergman. I'll say that right now. He looked alright against Berkman. Granted, Berkman's a veteran, but I don't know. One other thing about Felder too is that fight really showed me that he's a really stiff puncher. He's not particularly fast with his hands, and he kind of he's just real stiff when he strikes. It looks like he puts a lot of power into his strikes. It doesn't always seem really loose, especially when mainly when he punches. Um, with that said, though, I like Trinaldo here just because he's a more movement-based fighter, and Felder isn't. He's not really fleet of foot either. So I like Trinaldo to be able to pot shot from the outside, just go in, go out, pot shot, and working offensive takedowns just to keep Felder honest. Felder's tough. He's heavy-handed himself, but yeah, I like Trinaldo here to win this by decision. So yeah, Francisco Trinaldo by decision there. So after that, Thiago Marreta Santos fights Erick the Dreamcatcher Spicely. Spicely, 8-1 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He's 6'1", and he has a strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. He has a natural inclination to take the back. His wrestling's good. It seems like he prefers a single leg takedown, and his striking, it looks like he just kind of strikes to grapple. Thiago Santos, 13-4 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. Has his 2 losses by KO or TKO. 32 years old, he's 6 foot, trains at a Tata Fight Team. He most recently lost to Gregor Musasi, not the worst loss to have, he got knocked out by him. With Santos, he has some strong Muay Thai, heavy hands, really strong kicks. This guy's knocked dudes out with his kicks to the body and, of course, the head. He has some strong knees, too. He fought, Elias Theodoro. Yeah, it's Elias Theodoro. And I remember Theodoro kept trying to take him down. And Santos Man, that guy was just busting him up with knees. Almost knocked him out, too. And Santos' takedown defense is actually pretty good, too. Um, because Santos just has good takedown defense and should be the better striker, I gotta go with Thiago Santos to win this one by KO or TKO. Um, Spicely is just, he's a little too one dimensional. This is a tough matchup for him too. I gotta say, it's like Spicy's coming off a loss to like Sam Alvey. Next guy you get is Thiago Marreta Santos. I mean, who's like higher up the ranks than Sam Alvey. So yeah, really tough matchup for Spicely. But yeah, I gotta go Thiago Marreta Santos. I think he's a better striker. He can defend takedowns. If he's up against the cage, I mean, the guy has some good knees. So Thiago Marreta Santos by KO or TKO. Next fight after that, Mike El Cucuy De La Torre fights Godofredo Pepey Castro. De La Torre, 14-5 record with 1 no contest, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. Has 3 losses by submission. 29 years old, he's 6 foot, trains out of MMA Lab. A lot of the guys at MMA Lab are really strong in the clinch, and they're really strong up against the cage, whether their back is against it or they have their opponent's back against the cage. Mike De La Torre definitely fits that mold. I mean, he's a guy that if his back is up against the cage, he's really hard to take down and keep down. And a lot of guys are like this too, from like Alex Caceres, Brian Barberena, Benson Henderson. It just looks like something they practice, and they practice really well. They generally have really good elbow strikes from the clinch. Like all of them do. Not just like it's not just one. So you can tell this is like a real practice thing in the MMA lab because it's not just like the highest level guy, which is like Benson. It's like the lowest level guy too, like De La Torre or Bruce Leroy. I mean, they all have this like one particular skill that they're good at, particularly good at. Not say they're not good at like anything else. But anyway, so De La Torre, good takedown defense, especially up against Gates. Stand-up's just average, I remember he fought a Korean guy. I forgot which one. And he just showed a really. I remember he showed just a really steady game. He beat him up on the feet, showed some nice boxing, and defended takedowns and ended up beating him. I think De La Torre got choked out by like Ortega. Um, who else did he? I want to say, did Maximo Blanco blast him? I forgot, or is that some? I think it may have been someone else. Um, but yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. It's, uh, Godofredo Castro, 12-4 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO. 29 years old, he's 5'7", trains out of Evoluc Altai with the likes of Masron Duba. Pepey has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, both off his back and on top. His stand-up's real reckless, but he's always looking for the finish. Will even go for like a flying knee like he did against Noel Lahat. Against Andre Fili, I mean, he did a jumping triangle choke. He takes a lot of risk, and he'll even pull guard. I mean, that wasn't a good idea against a guy like Darren Elkins, who just beat him up and did what Darren Elkins does. But, Godofredo can always pull out something, especially in the first round. And that's the thing with Mike De La Torre. I remember when he fought like Brian Ortega. I think it was Brian Ortega. Got his back taken standing and got choked out like in the first minute, in the first round. And there is very much that possibility that Pepey can pull off some sort of sub or something just in the first round. After the first round, though, I gotta favor Mike De La Torre to just have the more technical game and being able to defend takedowns. Having the wherewithal, like if he is on the ground on top or something like that, to like be able to defend himself. So yeah, I like Mike De La Torre to win this one. I think he can beat up Pepey standing, especially in the later rounds. Hopefully, really avoid the ground game as well. So Mike De La Torre by decision. It, yeah, Mike De La Torre to win by decision. Okay. On the FS1 prelims, we have Gilbert Dorino Burns fighting Miguel Trato Prazeres. Prazeres, 20-2 record, 1 win by TKO, 8 wins by sub. 33 years old, he's 5'6" on a 2-fight win streak, and he is a grinder. He is strong. He's not tall, but he's a big, strong guy. He's just really strong. He's good offensive takedowns, real good top control. Stand up those kind of below average. He's actually not that bad off his back. I remember he went up against JC Catron his last fight. Dude, hits an omoplata from his back. And doesn't hit an, but like gets an omoplata sweep from his back. So he knows what to do if he's on his back too. Gilbert Burns, 11-1 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub. 30 years old, he's 5'10", training out of Black Zillions. He is a top BJJ practitioner, and in MMA, man, this guy has one of like the deadliest arm bars I've ever seen. I mean, like obviously Ronda and like Jiva Santana are like, he's the arm collector, but like with Dorino, man, like when he fought Alex Cowboy, I mean, it was like an omoplata to mount to like armbar. It was amazing. When did he fight Sajewski in his last fight, right? Dude, he took the back and then transitioned to the armbar, but the angle, like I recognize the angle he had him at too. Dude, he was gonna rip his shoulder off with his armbar. And not to say he has like just an armbar, like he has everything, just that stands out to me the most. Burns has some good offensive takedown ability too. It's more strength than technique though. But his stand-up is improving. He does get hit a little too much for my liking sometimes. But you can tell that there's, he has some power in his strikes. And he's really working on his stand-up. With that said, I mean, I think Dorino is better than everywhere than Prazeres. I think he's a better wrestler. Even I think Burns is a better wrestler. I think he's better on the ground. I think he's better standing. But the only problem is like Prazeres is like dirt tough. I mean, like this isn't a guy that gets finished. He's only lost to 2 guys, Paulo Thiago and like Kevin Lee. And like Burns out. I mean, I'm tempted to call a finish here, but because they're both like BJJ guys, it's like this could be a pretty bad matchup. But overall, I'm gonna go Gilbert Burns to win this by decision. I think, like I said, I think he just beats him everywhere. Next fight after that, Michinori Tanaka fights Rani Yahya. Yahya, or Hani Yahya, my bad. Yahya, 22-8 record with 1 no contest, 17 wins by sub, 5 wins by decision. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 31 years old, he's 5'6" on a 3-fight win streak. He most recently beat this pretty good wrestler actually, and he got an arm triangle on him too. Hani Yahya is like the ultimate neutralizer. I mean, seriously, he's really good at neutralizing guys' offense. He'll clinch with them against the cage. He'll grind a bit. Like, he is a legit BJJ black belt. He's really good at passing to dominant positions. Strong back control. And his takedowns aren't great, but he's relentless about getting them. His stand-up's average. You know what, though? It's not like a liability, per se. Like, yeah, he does tend to get outstruck. But at the same time, it's not like he can't strike at all. It's definitely not his strength, though. Michinori Tanaka, 11-1 record, 5 wins by sub, 6 wins by decision, 25 years old. He's 5'5". And Tanaka's got a judo base, really strong judo, good takedown game, and good submission grappling. I don't want to necessarily say BJJ because I know people hold different distinctions between like BJJ and judo and catch wrestling and whatnot. So, but his submission grappling skills are good. Like he can take the back and whatnot. His center's actually not too bad too. And one thing about Tanaka, though, he's really good in the scramble. So is Yahya, though. This fight, once again, two grapplers. You know, I like him. I'm gonna pick Rani Yahya to win this one though because, like I said, he's the ultimate neutralizer. He is just really good at neutralizing guys' offense. Um, I can see him maybe, having extended ground battles with Tanaka and Yahya getting the better of it. Maybe even just clinching up against the cage, grinding away. Stand up wise, I'd say Tanaka might be a little better, but even then, that's argumentative. Um, so, with that said, I think, yeah, Yahya just neutralizes his offense, gets a fight to the ground a couple times here and there. Might see some pretty cool scrambles in this fight though. But overall, Yahya by decision. Next one is that Jussier Formiga fights Dustin Ortiz. Dustin Ortiz, 15-5 record. 6 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. 27 years old. He's 5'5". He's trading losses and wins. Most recently losing to Wilson Hayes. Dustin Ortiz at his best, he's a good wrestler, really strong scrambler, good top control. And his stand-up actually isn't that bad, but he doesn't use it enough. Like when he fought like Borg, Borg actually took his back, but he's able to scramble out of that. But when he fought Wilson Hayes, though, Hayes was able to just get clinch and trip takedowns almost at will. And like Dustin Ortiz, the problem with his stand-up is like he just stands and then he'll clinch. Like he has this natural inclination to like grapple. So it's like he'll stand with his opponent, and maybe he'll do pretty well, and then like he'll clinch or just go for a takedown. That's like really ill-advised. Jussier Formiga, 18-4 record, 8 wins by sub, 10 wins by decision. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 31 years old, he's 5'5", trains out of Nova União, Kimura, and he is a legit BJJ black belt. Really strong at taking the back, too. This guy, like when he fought Zach Makovsky, he was able to find his back almost at will. He'll go for the standing back take, too. His stand-up's improving as well. I remember when he fought Wilson Hayes, actually, he was actually hitting Hayes quite hard. And for me, his offensive takedown ability is actually pretty good, too. This one's interesting just because they do have that common opponent in Wilson Hayes. Formiga beat Hayes, but then Hayes beat Dustin Ortiz. And there's some level of MMA math, but my thing is, I don't know if Formiga has that same clinch takedown ability or just takedown ability in general, especially from the clinch, that Wilson Hayes has. Standing, I favor Dustin Ortiz just barely. Pure wrestling, I probably favor Dustin Ortiz. BJJ and just on the ground though, scrambling and whatnot, getting dominant position. I gotta favor Formiga on the ground. And even standing, it's argumentative because like Formiga's stand-ups has been improving. Tough to say. Once again, something of a grappler versus grappler matchup here. But overall, I think Formiga's just a little better on the ground than Ortiz. So I gotta go with Jussier Formiga to win by decision. So after that, Vicente, the Silent Assassin Luque, fights Hector El Toro Urbina. Vicente Luque, 9-5 record with 1 draw, 3 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. Has his 2 losses by submission. 24 years old, he's 5'11", on a 2-fight win streak. And he trains out of the Black Zillions. Luque's stand-up's actually improving. It actually looks pretty solid. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills are quite strong, actually. He has a particularly strong front choke. Got 2 front chokes in his, he's had like 3 fights in the UFC. 2 of his wins are by front, His 2 wins are by front choke. His other loss to Michael Graves. Luque's offensive takedown ability actually isn't too bad. It's not great, but like in his last fight, he was able to take his opponent down pretty much at will. So, he has some, pretty good offensive takedown ability. Hector Urbina, 17-9 record with 1 draw, 9 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. This has 5 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. 28 years old, he's 6 foot. Everything about Urbina is just kind of average. His stand-up's just kind of average. His grappling's kind of average. I mean, Bartosz Savinsky managed to take him down at will and grind on him like Bartosz Savinsky does. Yeah, he's not like this huge threat standing. One thing about Urbina is he's always into fight. He's game, but like skill wise, I mean, he's just kind of average everywhere, but not great at any one aspect of MMA. His one win was against like Edgar Garcia. Garcia was like beating him pretty bad until like, or quite easily until Garcia kind of put himself in a guillotine. Ended up losing to Urbina. With that said, I might argue that Luque is probably just better in pretty much all aspects of MMA than Hector Urbina. Standing, wrestling, BJJ. I think he's better than him. So I'll go Vicente Luque to win this one. I can see him actually get the fight to the ground eventually. Wouldn't surprise me to see him get a front choke, so I'll go Vicente Luque by submission. On to the UFC Fight Pass prelims. So we have Alan Nuget Patrick versus Stevie Braveheart Ray. Stevie Ray, 19-5 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 8 wins by sub. That's has 4 losses by submission. 26 years old, he's 5'10", on a 5-fight win streak. Last fought in October 2015. His stand-up's pretty good, actually, defensively and offensively. He's pretty heavy-handed. His overall grappling game isn't too bad. He does have some pretty good ground and pound. Like when they beat up like Entwistle and just like pounded him to dust, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I think it's Entwistle. I'm not too sure. No, I don't think it was Entwistle. My bad. It was Bendel. Yeah, it's Bendel. And pounded him to dust. So, Alan Patrick, 13-1 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub, 33 years old, he's 5'11", trains out of X Gym. He lost, recently to Taisumov? I think he got knocked out by him. He should have lost to McDessie, too. I don't know how he got that win. The thing with Patrick is he's, like, real unorthodox, but he's real athletic. So he'll go for some, like, weird-looking strikes, or like, yes. And in his last fight, though, like, he showed some good offensive takedown ability and overall good grappling. So, I mean, he always has that. He has, like, that in his back pocket, too. Like, he can do a little bit of everything, but it's not. And he's a good athlete, but, like, the technical game just isn't all there yet. And that's kind of why I like Stevie Ray in this matchup, because the technical game, he's pretty technical standing, he's good enough on the ground, heavy-handed guy. The thing with Alan Patrick, this one's kind of hard, because he's just kind of unorthodox, he's hard to read standing. He'll go for his own takedowns and whatnot, too, if need be. But with that said, yeah, I just like the more technical guy to win this one. I'll go Stevie Ray to win this one. Oh, man. I'll go by decision, actually. This one's really tough for me to call, though. Let's try off that. Erick the Tiger Silva fights Luan Tarzan Chagas. Erick Silva, 18-7 record with 1 no contest, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 11 wins by sub. Also has 3 losses by KO or TKO. 32 years old, he's 5'11", on a 2-fight losing streak. Most recently getting knocked out by Nordin Talib. He trains out of King's MMA, and what's interesting about that is it's, like, the thing with Erick Silva is, like, he's a BJJ black belt, but he's real wild, too. When he's standing, he has this, like, real wild stand-up. And his wrestling's good offensively and defensively, but his chin's not good, and his cardio's not that good, too. It's probably because he's so wild. One thing about Erick Silva though is like it looked like before, when he fought Nordine Talib, that training camp he did at King's MMA, it looked like he was trying, like he was, they're changing up his game. And it looks like they're trying to make him a bit more technical. And he, like, that fight looked like the adjustment fight. You know, so I don't really know if he's going to just put it all together finally. Or should we just give up hope that he's going to ever put it all together? I think it's more the latter. But like I'm actually just a bit curious to see what how he's gonna fight in this matchup. It's looked pretty bad as of late. Luan Chao has 14-1 record with one draw, 6 wins by KO TKO, 8 wins by sub. He also has one loss by submission. 23 years old. He's 5'11", and he is a finisher. I actually rewatched his fight against Sergio Moraes. That first, he took the fight on short notice, and that first round, man, he got this head kick on him, beating him up on the feet, dropped him, almost finished him. But I gotta say though, I don't agree that he won the, that I thought he lost the next 2 rounds. He got a draw. I guess you can give a 10-8 first round, but I didn't see it. Personally, I thought that Sergio Moraes should have probably got the win at rounds 2 and 3. But what did I like about him? His stand-up looked good. His kicks look particularly strong. He's heavy-handed, pretty aggressive, and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, from what I've seen actually, out before his fight against Sergio Moraes, it's actually pretty good too. Now, Luan Chagas might be what Erick Silva was when he first started in the UFC. Like young, hungry, finisher. And at this point, it's like Erick Silva back in the days used to beat the Luan Chagas guys. But now after his loss to Nordine Talib, and Nordine Talib's solid. He's not spectacular, but he is solid. I just have to wonder if Erick Silva can beat this level of competition anymore. I mean, he's not the most winning fighter. And he's getting progressive steps down in competition and not beating those guys. So, he's been getting knocked out. His chin's not getting better. It's getting worse. So with that said, I got to go with Luan Chagas to win this one by KO or TKO. I mean, he's young. He's hungry. He's aggressive. He's heavy-handed. I mean, I can see Erick Silva winning. If Erick Silva wants to take it to the ground, it wouldn't surprise me if he does. I think he'd have a pretty good chance because Erick Silva is really good on the ground himself. Chagas is good too. It'd be safer for Silva, but I'm still gonna go Luan Chagas to win by KO or TKO. And finally, Gregor the Gift Gillespie fights Glauco Nego Franca. Franca, 13-4 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 6 wins by sub. 25 years old, he's 6 foot, training out of Astra Fight Team. He is an Ultimate Fighter winner, and dude, this guy is big for 155. He looks like a welterweight. One thing about Franca, so I rewatched his fight against James Vick, and I gotta say, he was winning that fight until he got eye-poked. When he was taking down Vick pretty much at will, when Vick was doing his best on the ground, but he was losing that first round until Franca got eye-poked and everything just kind of went downhill, and Vick was able to take over. Franca does have some good offensive takedown ability, and he's an overall good grappler. He's good at, he can take the back and whatnot, and it's just big for a weight class. And stand-up is improving too. He was actually landing on Vick quite a bit when they fought. And so, yeah, his stand-up's not that bad. Gregor Gillespie, 7-0 undefeated record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. He's 5'9", trains out of Belmore Kickboxing with the likes of John Vellante, former UFC fighter Costas Phillipe, who trained there too. It is his first fight in the UFC. He is a Ring of Combat veteran. One of the commentators, so I watched 3 or 4 of his fights. His most recent one gets Sydney Outlaw as well. So, one of the commentators said that he's a 4-time national NCAA wrestling champion. And, dude, this guy has a supersonic shot. I mean, I saw one fight. shoots in pretty far away too. Gets a single, gets the guy down. I've seen him shoot in, shoots for double, kind of far away, but like I said, supersonic shot, gets the guy to the ground like almost instantly. So his wrestling's good, really good, obviously. His kickboxing's not too bad too. His hands didn't actually look too bad from the fights I've seen. A lot of times though, he's definitely still a wrestler at heart. Like still learning the stand up game because like he keeps going back to his wrestling. His ground and pound's good. He has a natural inclination to get a dominant position, just like pound away, or go for an arm triangle. His arm triangle didn't look too bad. One of his fights I saw won by arm triangle. And his wrestling ride didn't look too bad too. So one of my biggest problems with Gillespie is that he shoots with no setup a lot of times, or also shoot from really far away. When he fought Sydney Outlaw, this was a bit concerning because, on the regional scene, most guys, if you're like an NCAA, one of those like super wrestler guys transitioning to MMA, you can like take down everyone on the regional scene. Once you get to the higher levels, though, it's a little harder. So that makes me kind of wonder if he's going to be able to take Franca down consistently and keep him down. Especially since Franca is just so big for the weight class. The other thing is, too, I remember, like, Gillespie was, like, if I'd send the Outlaw, take his back, and then Outlaw would, like, spin out and be on top a lot of times. And then as the rounds got later, Gillespie was shooting some really, like, non-setup shots from far away and failing. So this is, it's tough for me because I think Gillespie's going to be something great. I just don't know if this is like the best guy for him to fight. Glauco Franca, I'm like, he's pretty good. He, like I said, big for the weight class. I mean, lost to James Vick. I mean, he doesn't have like any great names under his like record or anything like that, but he does have double the amount of fights. Fernando Bruno was the guy he beat before that, and but I'm always worried now because back in the days, these wrestlers that go into MMA just take down everyone. I mean, some guys can still do that, like Cejudo and stuff like that, and just win that way. I just don't know if he can do that against Glauco Franca, who's also just a good grappler in his own right, big for the weight class, and probably the more developed striker at this point in time. So, like I said, I like Gregor Gillespie. I think he can really be something in the future. But, like, the guy, they gave him a really tough out as his first fight in the UFC. I think because that was a short notice thing, too. But I gotta go Glauco Franca to win this one. I'll go by decision. I think he might be able to stuff the takedowns or if not stuff the takedowns, then be able to get back to his feet if he's taken down. Or maybe even reverse position, too. Maybe. Kind of, I'm kind of reaching with that one. But standing, I like Franca's game at this point. Standing. It's also not Gillespie's first fight in the UFC. So yeah, I'm gonna go Glauco Franca to win this one, but just by decision. I think that, I don't want to repeat myself. I already explained myself, so yeah. Glauco Franca by decision. Okay, to recap, I have Cristiane Justino beating Lina Lansberg by KO or TKO. Renan Barao over Phillipe Nover by KO or TKO. Roy Nelson over Antonio Silva by KO or TKO. Francisco Trinaldo beating Paul Felder by decision. Thiago Santos over Erick Spicely by KO or TKO. And Mike De La Torre beating Godofredo Castro by decision. On the prelims, I have Gilbert Burns over Michel Prazeres by decision. Yahya over Michinori Tanaka by decision. Jussier Formiga beating Destin Ortiz by decision. And Vicente Luque over Hector Urbina by submission. On the prelims, I have Stevie Ray over Alan Patrick by, I believe, decision. Luan Chagas beating Erick Silva by KO or TKO, and Glauco Franca over Gregor Gillespie by decision. So that's it for my predictions for UFC Fight Night 95, Justino versus Lansberg. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And please check out my website at www.chrismoldon.com. You can buy some of my works, starting with my first novel, The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $4.99 on my website on Amazon.com. You can buy just for $1.99 my short stories and short story collections, starting with The Land of the Wooden Statues. Then there's the horror collection and the fantasy fable collection. Links to all these are provided on my on the description, along with a link to my Twitter page, a link to my author's page on Facebook, and my author's YouTube page as well. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.